The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's nice to be speaking with you all on this Monday morning. If you don't mind, I'm going to give it just a minute or two more so that we can give some time for other folks who I know are registered and planning to join us to go ahead and log in. But while we wait for those folks to join us, can I just confirm that everyone is seeing the screen okay and hearing my voice okay this morning? If that's the case for you, please go ahead and find that raise your hand button on your control panel. Excellent. Thanks, y'all. I appreciate that. So we're in good shape there. I am going to go on mute here for about a minute more, and we will get started in just about a minute more. Thanks so much for your patience. Okay, it looks like people are coming in, so I think we will go ahead and get started. And Keith, I can see that you've been able to log in, and I just want to make sure that your audio is working properly.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can, thank you, sir.
Put on a headset appropriately, and I will hang up the phone.
It sounds okay. It is a little bit faint, so I don't know if there's a volume control or you can just speak a little bit louder.
Let's see. Is that better?
It sounds okay to me. I'll ask my friends out in the audience. Can you do that hand raising again? Can you hear Keith okay on your end?
It might be better to open it on the telephone.
It looks like people are raising their hand. I think we can power through it this morning. We can also, for those of you out in the audience, we can also use our chat and question box at any point. So if you are having trouble hearing or you have questions that we are not addressing as we continue through the webinar program this morning, please feel free to put those into either the chat or question box, and I will be monitoring that. Thanks, Michael. He put that in. I believe you're indicating you're able to hear Keith okay. Okay, cool. So this is the last of our webinar series for this particular degree project, Degree Bridge Partners Project, excuse me. And of course, we're delighted. We have been delighted to be working with staff from the METC campus throughout this project. And they know that I just think the world of them, and I appreciate their responsiveness and all of their content knowledge in helping us all move through this project together. And I'm likewise similarly appreciative of my colleagues here in Michigan who have committed to seeing this project through and devoting a lot of time and other resources to making this work happen on your campuses. Those of you who are on the call today already know that our project's goal is pretty simple. We want to get more of those flags that indicate degree bridge partners for service members in healthcare fields here in Michigan, and that's what we are all committed to doing together. And as I said earlier, we have been stepping through a series of webinars to try and support you all in your efforts to do that. And I know that Keith, who's on the line with us, has been very helpful to all of you in moving your work forward. And again, I know that you all appreciate that just as much as I do. But hopefully you're feeling good about moving this project toward the end of our timeline together. Today's webinar is intended to really answer your questions about what materials you need to be gathering and aggregating to submit to the METC campus by our February 1st deadline in order to receive your stipend for participating in this project. So the majority of the webinar this morning, you'll be hearing from Mr. Hall, who will be giving you more of that information. But as I said, I'll be here in the wings, and if you have questions for me that are about the project or procedural things that I can help with, you're certainly welcome to ask me those things as well. Again, we're excited that we have 10 campuses moving forward. I know some of the campuses have run into a few stumbling blocks, but hopefully we will see all of you through with the project. That will remain to be seen here shortly, but we look forward to supporting you in any way that we can as you do complete your work. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to Mr. Hall, and he's going to just give you a few background details on the Degree Bridge Partners process at METC, and then he's got a really nice flow chart that will show you kind of what the process looks like as you're preparing to put those materials forward. So Keith, I will turn it over to you. Keith, we're not hearing you at all at this point. I'm not sure if you are out there. I'm still not hearing Keith. Yes. You're asking about the phone line, Keith. So it should just give you an option to change your audio and move from computer to phone. And if you select phone, it will give you a phone number that you can dial. Okay, so y'all, why don't you go back to your Monday morning email inboxes? I'm going to help Keith get connected to audio here, and then we'll be right back. If you're just joining us and worried about the dead air, we are coming back. We're just getting, oh, there you are, Keith. Is that you?
There we go. Outstanding. Thank you so much.
Oh, there you are. You
Yes,
sound great. Thank you.
outstanding. Hey, partner, so thank you so much for being on today. And Katie, thank you so much for having me on. And apologies for the technology issues and so forth, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually cover our medical education training campus. I'm going to give you a brief overview of our campus and what we do here. And then we'll talk about the bridging process and, of course, create opportunity for you guys to ask questions at the end. So go ahead. Next slide, Katie. Thank you so much. So also, Mr. Moore actually is on TDY today, so he's on temporary duty in Florida, actually getting some more education about what we do. So he would normally be on our conference as well. But here at the METC, our mission is to train the world's finest medics, corpsmen, and technicians. We put a lot of pride in that. And when you think about what we do to be able to take care of our service members on the battlefield, making sure that our personnel are trained to standard is very, very, very important. Being able to save the brothers and sisters that work with you, that are in your unit and so forth. So we put a lot of emphasis on that. And I really want to stress that because I know that our bridging partners from around the nation, when they look at what we do, a lot of times it's really, really important to have the confidence that the people that we're training here at the METC will be trained to your standards and so forth. But when you think about people that are truly looking out for their brothers and sisters on the battlefield, it really, really makes a great impact on how well they're trained, on how they really, really put a lot of emphasis on making sure they know their jobs well and so forth. So anyway, just think about that. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here at the METC, our mission is to train for the mission and educate for a lifetime of service. So we train our men and women in uniform to be very flexible, very adaptive, and so forth. But to educate for a lifetime of service, that's where our bridging partners truly come in. And we also put a lot of emphasis on making sure that we give our young medics, corpsmen, and technicians credentials early on in their career so that when they get out of the uniform, when they transition out in our civilian communities, all the skills, expertise that they learn while wearing the uniform, it doesn't go to waste. Next slide. So at the METC, we have 49 programs of instruction, very, very large campus. On any given day at our METC campus, we have about 5,500 students. So really enough people to staff about 4 300-bed hospitals. that are training all year long. And our annual throughput is about 16,500. So out of those 49 programs of instruction, 36 of our programs are consolidated, which means that we have at least 2 branches of service working side by side in the same classroom, learning the same curriculum to graduate students. 13 of our programs are single service, and those single service programs, meaning that the environment in which they train is so unique that if you put them in a blended classroom setting, it will actually take away from the learning outcome. So by example, we have a lot of you all are bridging with our combat medic specialist program. So these are our Army medics, and these guys, they train out and they train to perform their duties in deserts, in rivers, or mountaintops, anywhere that a person is at, except for on a ship or in the air. Our combat medics take care of them. So if you were to blend them with our hospital corpsman basic program, which a lot of you all are bridging to, it would be totally incompatible, because those guys really only perform their duties in a clinical setting or on a ship where the hallways are very narrow and so forth. So if any of the programs are so unique by the environment in which they perform their duties, then those become single service programs. So at the METC, we also have 5 of our programs to train U.S. Coast Guard members. Our behavioral health technician program trains U.S. Marine Corps, because we want to make sure that anywhere we have service members around the world, we have people in their units that are trained to identify their problems and issues and can get them to higher echelons of medical care. We also maintain a strong relationship with our AMED Center and School, our Army Medical Department Center and School, International Military Student Office. So our allied services, allied forces from across the world, they send some personnel here to our medical campus, and our students, not only do they get to train with the different branch service, but they also get to train with personnel in uniform from France, from Saudi Arabia, from Germany, many, many countries around the world. So it's a really, really unique learning environment. Next slide. So this is our, what Mr. Moore calls our money slide. You know, it's very, very important when you all are looking to bridge with the METC that you know that we're accredited. The programs that we're doing are accredited. So basically the same credentialing bodies that credential programs for you at your universities and colleges are the same ones that have come to the METC to look at what we do, and they say, man, what you guys are doing meets the mark, and a lot of times we exceed the mark, because we do what those credentialing bodies want us to do to meet their standards, but we also go above and beyond to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our services. So there you can see that the programs that you might be looking to bridge with, they're credentialed by the same certifying bodies that your school will use. Next slide. So the degree bridge partnerships. Right now we actually have degree bridge partnerships with 65 colleges and universities around the nation. We have over 551 degree bridge pathways that our service members can attach to complete their degrees, complete their educations, and so forth. So we appreciate you all for, creating more of those opportunities and so forth. We have ongoing collaborations with educational and non-educational bodies. These are people that advocate service members, advocate higher education for service members and so forth, veterans groups and so forth. So we work with those credentialing bodies as well as a lot of state certifying bodies in what we do here at the METC. Our programs here at the METC that have any Air Force students, they're affiliated with the Community College of Air Force. So the Community College of Air Force is a very, very popular and well-known university or institution. And all of our programs here that have Air Force students, they go in and they credential and they look at what we're doing to make sure that we are training to their standard for their university. So those students that actually graduate, they can get a Community College of Air Force transcript. Some of our programs are affiliated with George Washington University, like our laboratory technician programs and so forth, where these universities help our students get associate's degrees so they can then apply for their licenses and certifications, credentials, and so forth. University of Accounting Word also does the same thing, but we're actually soon to end those contracts. We also recently, about a year ago, became an independent branch campus of the Uniformed Services University, College of Allied Health Sciences. And that's going to be a big, big deal, because our students, we are piloting certain programs through that USU agreement, what we call it, USU agreement. And basically what it's going to mean is that when our students graduate here at the METC, eventually all of those students will have official transcripts from the Uniformed Services University. So it won't be so difficult for colleges and universities to see where to grant credits to those students and so forth. With an official transcript that really, really helps the service members because they won't lose a lot of credits when they transition from one college or university to the next. And of course, again, it just creates a much clearer language when Degree Bridge partners want to look at what the student did and pick up their education on a Degree Bridge pathway and so forth. So we also collaborate on a regular basis with our education service officers here on Fort Sam Houston. And they make sure that everything that we do when working with colleges and universities are done legally so no one gets in trouble. So we're always making sure that we do that as well. Next slide. So right now, we're going to be updating this slide at the end of the year, and it's almost that time. But right now, we have about 140,000 METC alumni. So there's a lot of people out there that can use these Degree Bridge pathways that you guys are setting up for these 4-hour students here at the METC. Really, really important to note is that when institutions in different states set up Degree Bridge partnerships, they're really, really focusing on the reserve and the guard population because once they come out of the METC, they return right back to their home stations. So if they're able to graduate the programs here in San Antonio, go back to Michigan and other states, and then immediately start working on their higher education, getting their degrees, making sure they get their licenses and credentials, that's going to be a great situation to keep our service members from really becoming homeless, from being unemployed and so forth. About 50% of our veterans that wear the uniform, of service members that wear the uniform, within 4 years, they're returning back to their home states or a state that they fell in love with, possibly while they was in the uniform. So again, that increases the number of people that are coming to the states, to your colleges, your institutions, to pursue higher education. Our members are highly qualified and highly certified, meaning that, you know, it's a much different situation when you're training someone to sustain the lives of their brothers and sisters on the battlefield. And almost everything that we do here at the METC is to really, really prepare these service members, these young health professionals, to not only be able to take care of themselves, but to take care of their brothers and sisters who's going to protect them to make sure they can get back home to their families. So the commitment is very, very high. The passion is very, very high. The quality of training is extremely high. And when you visit our campus, many of you all have already visited our campus, you'll see that our technology is second to none. So it's a great, great environment for our students to learn. So I really, really want to emphasize to you all that when you are working with the METC to create bridge degree options and so forth, that you're really, you should really have the confidence that your students or your prospective students, that they're going to be trained well, that when you put them out in their civilian community, they will be trained to a standard that is definitely equal to what the civilian community is doing, and in many, many cases, much higher. Next slide. So what we have right here is a degree, just a bridge and process map, just a process map. It really, really simplifies everything that you all are doing when you're trying to create a bridge partnership. It gives you a step-by-step in what we do and how we got the process. And knowing that it's really just 8 simple steps, it really, really relieves a lot of stress in the minds of our partners and so forth, especially if they've had no affiliations with the military. So those little 8 steps right there. I think the only thing that some colleges and universities start to bog down is the behind-the-scene work that you all do when you're trying to do the curriculum matches and so forth. And if you ever have any challenges when you're doing that, you can reach back out to us. We're definitely going to send you our curriculum plans, if you see right there in step 3. But when you're working behind the scenes and you're trying to match credits and so forth, if you need additional information from us or from the program directors or so forth, or just if you have questions in general, you can reach back to our office and we can set up a teleconference so that we can make that very easy for you. And of course, on the left side of the slide is all of the resources that you need for academics to download the catalogs and so forth. Next slide. So in the end, it's all about the transition of service member, and we really want to make sure that they are prepared to take their experiences out in the civilian community. But what you're doing is very, very important because You know, by helping these military service members and veterans get their education and get their credentials, you're helping to prevent a lot of people that serve their country from being homeless, from being in the streets and so forth. So we really, really applaud you for that. So that actually concludes my portion of the brief. And if you have any questions, definitely type them in or let me know.
Thank you so much, Keith. We appreciate your time this morning. Really quickly, folks, I've got a slide up that just reminds you what the timeline is for our project. We're here. We're at the end of 3 as we're finishing up our final webinar this morning. And then you're to be here working on your materials. And we're going to go back to that process slide in just a moment so that if you do have questions or if you want to review that one more time, you can take a look at it. And I can also send you that as an attachment along with the recording of this webinar once it is available so that you'll have it to share with your campus teams. I also want to make one final reminder about the MOU. I think actually nearly all of you that are on the line have already completed your MOU, but for those of you who may be listening at home later or on campus later, I'll just remind you that you need to have those MOUs turned back in before we can administer your stipend. So it'd be great if we could get those moving, and if you need some support on that or need me to resend you the template, I'm happy to do that. We will also include all of our contact details here as we follow up with you after today's program. But as I said, I wanted to go back here to this slide because I think this really expresses the project much more succinctly than the way that maybe I have been explaining it to folks. So you've all already stepped through and should be at number 4. I believe most of you have already received curriculum plans or CPs from the METC campus. I know I've seen a lot of back and forth with Keith and all of you asking questions, sharing materials. And so that is where I would expect you are. If you haven't done that yet, let's get that going so that you can get those curriculum plans and move into number 4 and start to evaluate those plans for your transfer credit proposal. And then number 5 is when you are sending that proposal. That's what we are asking you to have complete by February 1st. So, Mr. Hall, I don't know if there is a particular document template that is used for that, or are folks just kind of writing up a narrative description of what their credit transfer looks like for these new programs? Or can you speak a little bit more to that, what you're looking for in that proposal?
Yes, and actually I have created a template recently that I sent out to some institutions and so forth, and I will definitely forward it out to the group. But it basically just articulates exactly how many credits the college or university are proposing to give to a student from the METC that comes and joins their college or university. It tells them what classes they're giving those credits in. It tells them basically how many credits they will have to do within that college or university to complete that degree bridge pathway. It lists the mandatory courses, so basically a student could transfer over with stuff from the METC, stuff from courses from previous, colleges or universities and so forth, but it tells them the required courses that they will have to take at their college or university. But there's a template that explains that in great detail, and I will definitely get that out to the group today. One thing that I definitely want to make a note of is that we had one college that actually was having difficulty communicating with the METC and so forth, and it was because of some of the firewall that was created at their own university. And they was reaching out to me and had reached out to me about 3 times, and I was not getting the messages and so forth. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that I would definitely not delay the process. If you reach out to me, usually within 30 minutes, I will have responded to you. If it's something that I need to do some research on and so forth, usually within 12 hours or the following day, I will definitely get your answer back. So if you ever reach out to me and you do not get a response, if it's a work day, then definitely know that you probably need to reach out to Katie, and Katie will make sure I get that correspondence and so forth. But anytime you reach out again, my goal is to respond to you immediately so that I can keep the ball going and make sure that I give you guys good customer satisfaction and experience on this end, but also just to make sure that nothing that you need is delayed and so forth. So anyway, but I will be sending out a document that has a template exactly of how a very user-friendly format that will make the students, that will help the students make a decision a lot faster, and that will satisfy the desires of our program directors when they look at it and they start asking questions and so forth. Thanks, Katie.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's great. So everyone, you can look forward to receiving that document template either from Mr. Hall directly or Keith, if you want to send it to me, I can send it out with these other materials too. Either way. And then folks, so for everyone else on the line, if you're looking at the process map, then you'll see that number 5 is what we are asking for as part of our project. So that's our February 1st deadline kind of milestone. 6, 7, and 8, we certainly expect and encourage that your institution will continue to move through that process. But at basically item number 5, our participation in the project and my ability to act as liaison sort of drops down. Now, some of you have heard me say this, and I'll say it probably until I'm blue in the face, but I would do this work for free. So even though I might be off this project in an official capacity as a state liaison, I am absolutely always willing to connect people together and answer questions that are within my wheelhouse, or certainly ask Mr. Hall or Mr. Moore to step in and help you out. And as he described, that's how we realized that one of the campuses was not getting through to him, because I said, oh no, that's not right. He will get back to you. If he's not getting back to you, there's a problem. And certainly there was an IT issue there. So I can't say enough good things about the partnership of the METC staff. I do want to make sure that you don't have other questions, folks. I'm checking the chat and the question box, and I'm not seeing anything. Hopefully you all feel that Keith and I are both quite accessible to you. I know that we've all been in touch about this, and I recently checked in with folks on how the projects were going, and most people seem like you have a pretty solid plan and that things are moving forward as expected. I know a few of you had to change your program areas, and that was a little bit maybe frustrating, or just a wrench that you hadn't expected in your plans, but it does sound like you all are still making progress and moving forward with new program areas. So I appreciate your flexibility if that happened on your campus. And again, if there's anything I can do for you in the next couple of months as you're preparing to get the materials submitted by the 1st, I would be happy to support you, and I know Mr. Hall would as well. Mr. Hall, anything else you want to say before we sign off for the morning?
I just want to reassure everybody that if you have any questions or any concerns as you go through the process, anything that is stagnating you or anything that's confusing you or whatsoever, language or whatever it might be, definitely reach out to me via email or phone call. Some of our partners, they do that very, very well, and you can never ask me too many questions. So never think that you're gonna bother me or take up too much of my time, because we're definitely here for you, because we know that you're here for the students, and we really want to make this as smoothly as possible. So reach out anytime you have a question or concern or just something that you want more so explained or so forth. That's it, Katie. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then I'll tell everybody one last thing. After the 1st of the year, I will also be supplying a template for a project report. Those of you who have already submitted the MOU know that we are asking you to fill out a project report. It will be a template, so it'll be a guided report, so that we can collect some information about how this project went for you all. And I will also be submitting publishing with the Michigan Center for Student Success a brief on how this work went on your campuses, and sort of to help demonstrate the success that you all had with the work. So if any of you are interested in being interviewed or otherwise contacted about that kind of a brief, and perhaps sharing some of your insights and input, there will be a place on the report template where you can indicate that, and then we can work together to be sure that you have a quote, or you can explain the process that you used, or anything new and promising that you learned from your work here. So I'm looking forward to working with you all on that as well, and being able to share our story a little bit. All right. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Monday and a happy rest of the week. We are in the home stretch here before the holidays, and I'm hoping that you all have some rest and relaxation planned as well. But in the meantime, feel free to be in touch with either Mr. Hall or myself if there are things we can do to support you. And I will be in touch soon with all of the materials from today's program, including the recording, once it is converted. So thanks, y'all. Have a good one. Bye-bye.